Hey traders, how's it going? It's Scott Schneider over in the Live Trading Suite in the Futures Room, bringing you a shadow short this evening. This is going to be just focused on ES and NQ futures market, and it's really intraday in mind, so my analysis in the morning will be a little different than it is right now, but we'll go with what's going on right now. The markets hit all-time highs in the ES today, and we did not get the same reaction in the Qs, and we'll get into that. The Qs, to me, are at a very important area, and I think if this market's going to go higher, it is going to be on the heels of, if tech is going to continue this massive rally that they've been going since like October 2023, if not earlier. And with that in mind, Scott Gillum over in, who's also part of the Live Trading Suite, came out with a shadow short less than 24 hours ago, going over the Mag 7 earnings and some other nuance into those, major tech stocks that really drive this market. And especially when the market is and this is my opinion, I just think right now that this market is due to the fact that we're at all-time highs. You have to think on a day-to-day level who's participating in this market. And I imagine it's intraday, shorter-term time horizon traders, and then your dealers, your market makers who are keeping their books hedged, and a lot of it could be just that feeding on itself as to why we're seeing kind of what we're seeing. So let's not predict. Let's try not to have too many strong feelings about what the market should be doing. Let's see what it is doing. It did make new highs today. It made it with about 4 or 5 ticks of excess in J period, which for my room is the 2 p.m. to 2:30, and it had about 12 contracts at that high. Now, the fairest price to do business today from a time standpoint is the 64.09 and a quarter level, and that was 11 TPOs wide. So it's pretty in between the high and low of the day. Now, if we take a closer look at today's low in the ES, it is not the best situation. It is a poor low. And what that simply means is just that it lacks excess. So you can see that we just got this one little letter. So today's range was so tight that I was able to show the profile in single tick for ES. And the low here, so this is like, the day's session, and this low only got one single tick of excess. So that's classified poor, via Jim Dalton, Stoudemire, Resnicek. So the low is poor. It's also weak, in my opinion. Also, market profile term and Dalton term. And it's weak because it was mechanically bought off of the settlement of July 23rd. So pretty much off of yesterday's settlement. So that just lets you know that, when you're seeing that type of mechanical behavior, you don't want to get complacent, especially if you are an intraday trader, a short-term trader, and you just want to, probably wait for more, pick your spots a little tighter, wait for a little more confidence, and just manage risk. So it's not like a marry your position type situation. If the market had more confidence, then maybe it would be. So that's how the day looks. I do think there's an opportunity for an aggressive counter trend trade at this poor low. So the poor low is at 63.96 and a quarter. And I think if we happen to, and it would probably be more for me actionable during regular trading hours than the overnight, because the overnight, the volume's not really going to be much. But if we get below this area, I think we could revisit some of the structure from yesterday. We still have single prints in J period down at the 63.86 area that have to get filled. We have a virgin TPO point of control, 63.77.75. So, that is something that I could see just a healthy little pullback. And that and then you want to see what happens at that 63.77 area, because that could be where the market decides to support and the auction continues to the upside. So that's just more of something I would act on not because I think I'm bearish on the market, but more because I think inventory is just starting to get a little long, and we could see some form of a little small shakeout before we either get more continuation in terms of new highs, or a bigger correction, which is just really not been present in quite a while. So if we take a look at, so this was looking at today's session, just today's profile. If we take a look at what this looks like if we merge the entire month of July together, it looks like this. So think of this, if you're not familiar with the profile, or you are and you're not familiar with merging the profiles, instead of the daily, think of this like a monthly. And it's the month of July. And so the blue shaded area, that's our value area for the month of July. That is where 70% of the activity has taken place this month. This right here is I could zoom in a little bit on it. It's the TPO point of control for the month of July. And it's around the 6280 area. It's deep in the heart of July's value. And that would be where, if we do get like a healthy pullback that just kind of, is shaking out some weak-handed longs and looking for longer-term participants, that could be where the market finds it. If not, and we lose the 6260 area, then we potentially, revisit the low of July. But I just think it's important to keep in mind, what I'm thinking of is right now, presently, with price being in the 6,400 range, and just less than a week left in the month of July, we're pretty far removed from our value area. And this is the mid range, the half of the 0.5 fib level, or halfback in profile terms, for the month of July, around the 6,320. So it would make sense that, maybe we fill in some of this area, come in and see what happens here. And if we happen to get into the 6334, 6335 area, after we repair some of those weak, poor lows, potentially we could balance to the other end of the July value range. So that's just, one thing to be aware of in this, market, as it's going to look for new participants, new buyers and sellers. If we take a look at the NQ, very interesting. So NQ pretty much had a double top. I mean, it was maybe the high from the 21st is just slightly above the high from today. But it's a double top technically. It's also weak in kind of market profile term. And so I just think it's important. I think this is going to really determine whether or not we continue in the broader markets, both ES and NQ, to the upside. If we can create new highs, and not just create new highs, like look above this 425-ish area, but also, maybe find acceptance above there and get some extension to the upside. But I really wouldn't initiate anything on the buy side until this is resolved. And so again, I kind of refer to Scott Gilliam's shadow short that came out just within the past day, going over the Mag 7 earnings and how maybe those fundamentals could interject eventually with the technicals. Just looking at the lows, the low was made today in B period, which is within the first hour of the day. And, pretty much all of the activity was, above the previous day, like had that little spike after the Google and Tesla earnings. And so spike to the upside. And we kind of stayed in that range to above it the entirety of the day. So that is a good sign. if we take a quick look at today's internals under the hood, we'll see that it wasn't really a strong day either direction, whether it was to the downside or the upside. And what I mean by that is I'm looking at the sectors that make up the S&P 500 from the open. And you can see, when they're dark green, which is the only one today was energy, that means it's up over at minimum 50 basis from the open. If it's dark red, that means it's down at least, 50 basis points from the open, not from the close, but from the open. And with the exception of energy and communications, every other sector that makes up the S&P 500 was kind of just in a meh, not really too strong, not too weak. Maybe a little more weakness in healthcare, financials, consumer discretionary, industrials, utilities, materials, and staples than XLK and real estate, but nothing was standoutish. Breadth was negative on the day, which is different from the previous 2 days. So you had a negative NYSE breadth, negative 2.04 and negative 1.15 to one NASDAQ. You did have a cumulative negative tick, which was interesting because the weighted AD was, with the exception of the first 5-minute bar and the second, like the two last 5-minute bars, all the activity on the weighted was above the zero line. But the entirety of today's session, the cumulative tick, so the total tick count plus minus, ended up being in the negative 23,000 area. Just one data point, but kind of interesting. So that's where the broader markets are. We do get some data tomorrow at about 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Going to be some durable and goods, U.S. core goods. So, there should be a reaction there. And I hope you guys are staying safe, trading smart. Don't let this market get you complacent. Check out our ShadowTrader Christmas early in July sale. Peace. Hey, this is Scott Schneider from the Futures Room over at ShadowTrader's Live Trading Suite. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you'd like to trade live with me in real time, please click the link in the description below. Have a great day and happy trading.